Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the country's biggest stars and some of my favourite people. And we've got one for you today, a lady who stormed the Palladium last Christmas. She's been on tour with Funny Girl and been around in the West End doing the business for as long as I can remember. Natasha Barnes, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Well, not as good as you. I mean, you've got beauty and talent. That's really the killer mix, isn't it?
I mean, I'm not used to the fact that you said you were speaking to some of the biggest stars, and I'm not really even a spark yet.
Well, I don't know why you keep avoiding me. You see, I asked for you in Funny Girl, and they said, no, she's too important to talk to the likes of you. And then I asked for you for the pantomime at the Palladium, which, by the way, I gave you 5 stars. I thought it was a stunning show, and you were marvellous in it. But you don't want to talk to me. What's it about me you don't like?
I do. I'm loving it already. No, I just go where they tell me to go and do as I'm told.
It's very wise in this game, very wise.
Yeah.
I've just spent 2.5 hours in the car driving from Nottingham to Bristol, and I put your CD in, which is a brand new release called Real, and it's quite lovely, and it really celebrates your voice. And what's unique about you is you have this sort of top register, which is so rare and so beautiful. I guess you can't be trained that just happens.
Oh, thank you. I think that, to be honest, I think that's definitely come with age. I don't think I could do that. I think when I was sort of 16, I'd just shout everything.
Very wise.
Yeah, but I think, it's I was so lucky with this album because I didn't know I could do half the stuff that I've done on it because I'm a live performer and I've never been in a studio. And when you're up close to a mic and you can hear everything, you get all these different colours that you didn't know you had, and I've been really lucky with it.
I suppose singing on a CD is the complete opposite. You've got to bring it in opposed to stick it out. Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, you're not playing a character either. You've not got the safety of being able to fall back on what's going on in the play at the minute and what's happening to the character and how's my character feeling. It's you. It's all you. And you've got to answer the question that the song is asking with like kind of your own answer and your own words. So it was really personal. And I've never done that before, and it was a bit of a challenge at first, but I loved it by the end.
I've got the greatest respect for anybody who can stand on a stage 8 times a week and do the same old nonsense. It's a tough gig being in a musical, as glamorous as it may appear. It's proper work, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard graft. It's really, really hard graft. You work, your hours kind of change all the way throughout. You sort of do your rehearsals where it's the closest to the sort of 9 to 5 you get, and then you go into your tech rehearsals where you sort of lose all life for a week or a bit, and then you get the show up, and it is a roller coaster. And I'm terrible. I don't even know if I could stick out more than a year in one show because I'm so creative that I cause trouble if I get bored, so I have to keep my mind active.
Tell me about those moments on a Thursday, especially if you're in the West End and it's 2:30 and you look at a load of Japanese people who don't speak English. How do you stop yourself from sticking in a double entendre just to entertain the second guy in the chorus?
I don't know. I feel like what I want to say is that you don't stop yourself. You just do it. No, I mean, you know what gets me through is that it really is a different show every time, and the tiniest little, we all become very geeky on a long running show, and the very tiniest thing is hilarious, and it's like the best thing that's ever happened, because we're so used to the norm. But something different does happen every night, and usually I was just, especially on Funny Girl, I was just thankful that I'd not eaten too much before or not, whatever, because I made a couple of mistakes where I'd have a big burger and fries, and then I'd go on stage and 20 minutes later I'd be really regretting it. And you can't get off once you get on in that show. So
no. Windy pops during a 2.5 hour show is not the best, is it really?
No.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room with that show. I mean, I came to see you in it, and I thought you were magnificent, by the way. I'm not the first to say it. But it was surrounded by such hype and controversy. Is it fun when you're on the front page of a newspaper, or would you rather just get on and do it quietly?
I went into that job wanting to do my job, and I wanted to earn my wages. And I think I certainly earned my wages because I know that I gave it my best. But all the other stuff was... in some ways it was a bonus, in some ways it was an experience, in some ways it made the job a little bit more difficult, purely because the role was so big that I was filling in for at the time. I had to, your whole life in a role that big becomes about energy conservation. On a 2-show day, you're singing 24 songs, and in order to do that, you have to sort of like become a bit of a hermit, and it's hard to do that when you're charging up and down London doing various things, telling everyone it's all fine.
Yeah.
So, but it was just a moment in time where I wasn't sure if we never know if we're really qualified to do something until we have to do it. And I like to think that, I made the people that still had jobs to go to at that point feel confident that they could walk into a building and go to their job and the show wouldn't close. And I feel indebted to the audiences. I really do. I feel like I owe those audiences so much for getting past that initial sigh of resentment and going with me on it, and by the end standing up. I mean, it was incredible, and that's not me that did that. That's them. That's their attitude. That's the audience's attitude, and that's why I sort of, do you know what? It sounds a bit cliche, but I really did fall in love with people again through that show, because people are very, very kind.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm a good mate with Rhea Jones, and what she did in the West End, the same year you did it, really, with Glenn Close understudying her, and coming onto that raucous boo of "we don't want you, we want Glenn Close," but then stealing it and ending up doing the tour. I mean, it's the same story. It's almost delicious in a way, isn't it? That you could go on to boos and then turn them around in 2.5 hours and end up with the gig is beautiful.
Well, we did a little Q&A night together, and we both sang a song, and so we had a little, and it was just this bizarre thing where I'd never met Rhea, and we had such a bond already, because you don't know what that is, and it's such a funny thing. Like, I've been working for, Rhea is an institution. She has been in everything, touched everything, done everything, nailed everything, and she's got a lot of experience on me, but I've been around for a good 8 years before Funny Girl happened, slogging away and doing things on Fringe, off Fringe, mice in the toilet when I'm doing my costume change, and I'd seen it all, really. And there was just this thing there of, like, people go, "Oh, who's this new talent?" And you think, "No, I've been around for ages. I've been banging the doors down." But
and again, you couldn't walk into that theatre with all that furore going on in the lobby with the press and with the photographers and all that nonsense and keep your nerve if you hadn't done it for that long. That's what's amazing. Almost the prep of your life led you up to that, which is brilliant.
Yeah, I think you're really right about that. No one's ever said that to you before, but yeah, I think it probably was. You do get a bit steely and you get a bit used to rejection. You think, all right, I can take it, let's just do it. And, it'll be tonight's performance, the role of Fanny Bryce would play with Natasha Barnes, and you'd hear the, and then you'd have the overture, and I'd think, just give me 20 minutes, and it's all right. It'll be all right. You won't leave entirely disappointed.
It's exactly what I say to people on Tinder. If there's a young lady, for example, who sees my picture, she's immediately disgusted and goes into the closet to vomit.
Give me 20 minutes.
And then I say, give me 20 minutes. It's the same thing, Natasha, to be honest.
That is brilliant.
No, it's my life. It's my face.
I thought I was reaching my own slogan there, and I feel like you've just ruined it.
I'm sorry about that. You were trying to be profound, weren't you?
Yeah.
Talking of which, I came to see you last in the Palladium pantomime, which I just thought was utterly sensational, totally inappropriate for the children, of course. But, what a joy to be cast in that. And, of course, you got the title role, arguably the least important, because Julian's on stage doing all the knob gags, which everybody wants. But, again, it's one of those roles. You have to do it amazingly well or the whole thing falls down, because you're sort of the bricks of the house in a production like that, and he's just the roof on the top.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was if we're going with the house analogy, it was the interior design was incredible. And
sorry, it was a crap analogy in the first place.
No, I loved it.
You're rejecting me again, aren't you, Natasha?
No, I don't.
Give me 20 minutes. That's all we've got.
It was a bit of a rest after Funny Girl, because everything crazy had happened, and I just got to be on the front of a poster for the first time, and I got to work with all these incredible people, and I'd have these moments of going, I'm having a cup of tea with Paul O'Grady, this is mental. And we had such fun, and I think probably my thing that I'm most proud of with Cinderella is the fact that I didn't corpse, I didn't laugh on stage more than I managed to. I did go a couple of times, of course I did, I couldn't help it, but when you are having that much fun and getting paid for it, it's a real dream come true.
And again, in that palace of show business, do you do that thing where you walk by dressing room one and think of those who have been in there? Because it is incredible. I did a couple of interviews in there a few years back, and to think of those who have sat in that seat and looked in that mirror is incredibly humbling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. And in Funny Girl, I didn't touch dressing room one. I stayed in I stayed up on the very top floor with the girl dancers for a little while, and then I literally physically couldn't do the stairs during the show. So I moved down and I stole the conductor's room, which is on the first floor. But I never went near dressing room 1 because it wasn't mine.
Right.
And there was something wonderful about the Palladium, and then again like out on tour being given dressing room 1. You kind of go, you know, it is a moment, it is a thing, because it's steeped in tradition, isn't it? As you say, you know, you kind of sit there and go, oh God, the people that are sat here. You know, it's amazing to think about it.
I thought the pantomime was wonderful, more for those people like Lee Mead who took a bashing nightly and daily for days on end and did it with such grace as well. I mean, it's funny, that show, isn't it, that sort of Julian gets to make fun, but again, he can only do it because you're that good. Yeah.
I mean, Lee just has this innate quality where he steps out on stage and he is just every inch a leading man. He just is. And he doesn't set out to be a leading man. He sets out to be the character and play the part, but he just is a leading man. And I loved working with him, and we're still in touch. And he's promoting his own album at the minute, and I've sung on a couple of gigs with him since then because we just love working together. We have a great laugh, and I mean, it was great doing panto, but I'd love to do like a proper job with him. I'd love to do like a bit of a. I'd love to, you know, do a screaming in his face thing, because I think, you know, and he came to see Funny Girl when I was on tour. He came to Southend because that's his home venue, and he was all teary, and it was just the most wonderful, because I remember voting for him on Any Dream Will Do.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I interviewed Jodie Pranger on Friday evening in Sheffield. It's all the glamour, and she's in fact, friends, it's 10 years since she was Nancy. Time flies, doesn't it? Yeah, and I mean, she's another one that's wonderful, and the reason people love her is because she's a real person. Yeah.
She is what she is, and she's not afraid to show herself, warts and all. And I think, again, going back to the album, that's what the album's about. It's just about being me. And I was really careful with it. I didn't want it doctored. I didn't want it messed with. I mean, some of the songs were given treatments to make it sound a little bit like it was being played out of a vinyl. But in terms of my voice, if there was a cough, if there was a tickle, if there was a dodgy bit, I wanted it on there because I'm a live performer, and I don't want to lose that on my album.
Yeah.
So it is just real. I don't see the point of mastering something to within an inch of its life, because that's not music. Individuality is music, and you know, if we were all the same person, then there would be no music, because everyone would be the same and it'd be boring.
I wonder, when you went on tour with Funny Girl, whether you felt that was yours, because you said in the West End you weren't too sure because, of course, of all the hype around it with Sheridan. But when you went on the road, that really was yours because you were billed as it. So did you then embrace it when you went on the road?
Yeah, I had moments where I felt it was mine. It's a funny thing. It's really complicated. That show for me is really complicated. I had moments of going out to these venues and going, oh, people have paid to see me, and it's not by accident. And that was amazing. And I opened in Stoke on Trent, and it was the most wonderful reception ever. Like, they were just the most welcoming community, and they really went far in promoting it, and the houses were really good, and Glasgow was incredible. Like, everywhere I went, it was amazing. And I did a couple of Sheridan's venues because she got ill again, so I did Bradford and I did Southend, and it reminded me of the fight that I had in the West End. So I never got comfortable with it. Twice again during the tour, I had to go out and fight the disappointment, and I was reminded very much of that. You've
got to be careful when you put these names on the tin to sell a ticket and they don't turn up. Do you think it's something the West End's got to be a little bit careful of, because the show is no longer the star, is it? Like with Annie recently, they put Miranda in, and of course, because she's not a professional of West End theatre, within 3 shows she's off and everybody's disappointed. It's tough, isn't it, to sell these tickets? People are going to be pissed off. I would be if I'd spent 65 quid and the star didn't turn up.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I remember going to see Gypsy before I started in Funny Girl at the Savoy, and I remember thinking, I knew she'd been ill, and I thought, oh, please be on, please be on.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes down to it, nobody's bigger than the show. I believe that, and I think that Ria's proved that. I think myself, I've proved that. I think all these instances, you know, a show is a machine. It's a family, and it's created by far more than one person, and it's held up it's held up by more than one person. The only reason I went out every night and did what I did in Sheridan's absence was because I had a company around me and a support network that was flawless.
But let's not forget you've got a phenomenal talent and discipline that you've been creating for years that enables you to do that. And we mustn't forget that you and Rhea are exceptional. There are very few leading ladies who could take on either of those roles, as in Imelda in Gypsy. Who else could do that as well? So, yeah, let's give you credit for that. Very finally on the album, before we have to go, feels sort of autobiographical. There seems to be a lot of you in it, and even the titles of some of the songs seem to sort of give us an insight into your life. Is that right?
It is a little bit, yeah. It's really personal, and it kind of grows up as it goes forward. And that's why when you get to track 10, it's people. It's sort of, it goes through a lot of emotions, and it ends up in a sort of celebration, which is quite nice. But yeah, it is. It's full of insecurity, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I have hundreds.
You do realise nobody cares when you can sing as well as you do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's even on a material level or a superficial level. I think it's just that I think being fallible and being having faults or having things that you're not quite happy about, I think that makes us interesting, and I think that makes us human, and I think that's what makes other people fall in love with us. That's the funny thing. It's always the things that you don't like that people love, and I think that's the theme of the album, really.
So you think on my Tinder profile putting 10 out of 10, the perfect fella, might be over-egging my omelette a little bit?
A little bit, maybe, yeah.
Listen, it's been lovely talking to you. Thank you so much. Where can we see you next? I mean, are you going to take this on tour, or are you going back into a musical? What's next for Natasha Barnes?
I am developing a new musical. I am hoping to do a couple more concerts coming up, and in terms of the album, I really want to get this out on the road, so I really want to start putting that together as soon as I can and get back out there and see the people that made the effort to come see me in Funny Girl. Yeah,
there's never been more demand for the divas of musical theatre. I'm actually sat in Bristol at the moment about to go and tape at Wicked with the two ladies who are starring in that. It seems like it's your time, isn't it? We want to hear people who can do it and deliver, and no matter how much Simon Cowell tries to pretend that the idiots on X Factor can do it, actually people that can turn up 8 times a week, we have ultimate respect for, and I think that's why we fell in love with you during Funny Girl. Congratulations for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Natasha Barnes' new album is out now. Real, you can get it on Amazon. It's a beautiful listen. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to see you soon. Perhaps we can meet on Tinder, something like that. Just look for 10 out of 10, Mr. Perfect.
20 minutes.
Don't swipe right.